Welcome to this network discussion about pathways to family support, accessing the right support at the right time. The focus of this network discussion will be on exploring, discussing and debating the best possible pathways to family support and the best possible means of providing this support. In other words, we'll be asking you to discuss with us what should family support look like in Queensland. What are the best possible pathways for families to access this support in ways that will enable children and young people who have been harmed or are at risk of being harmed, and parents who need assistance to care for and protect their children to receive the help they need, when they need it, for the time they need it, and from the right provider or providers. Very importantly, the discussions that will take place by this network will be used to inform a co-design workshop that the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services will be hosting in liaison with Peak Care, the Queensland Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Child Protection Peak and QCOS within the next few weeks. There is a particular approach that we would like to take in undertaking this discussion. Firstly, you'll be invited to explore the ideal. What would an ideal system of family support look like? If there are ideal pathways in place to that family support, what would those pathways look like? If it were to be the ideal system, then how would we know that was the case? What outcomes could we expect for children and families from an ideal family support system? We'll be using information that we obtained from elsewhere to explore that ideal, as well as some of your own experiences and some of your own local knowledge about what the ideal might look like. We'll then be asking you to contrast the ideal with what the current situation looks like in Queensland. We're doing that for the purposes of defining the problem, understanding better what the gap between the current situation is and the ideal. In defining the problem, we'll then look at unpacking that further. We'll be looking at identifying what are some of the strengths and attributes that currently exist that push away from the current and towards the ideal. They're the strengths and attributes that exist currently that we want to build on and strengthen. We'll also be looking at what are the restraints and impediments, those factors that are pushing away from the ideal. We'll then move into looking at what are the strategies that could realistically be pursued that might address the problem. Those strategies might be ones that actually increase the number of strengths and attributes that are in existence or increase the impact of those strengths and attributes. Similarly, we'll be looking at the strategies that could be used to reduce the number of impediments or at the least reduce the impact of those restraints that currently exist. During the course of the discussion, you will be invited to consider relevant findings and recommendations of the Queensland Child Protection Commission of Inquiry, as well as the government's response to those recommendations. We'll be asking you to consider and discuss how those recommendations can best be applied in practice and in particular within a local community context. In particular, we'll be asking you to consider how vast a place Queensland is and that the application of those recommendations in Cairns is going to be probably very different to what they might look like in Mount Isa and in the southeast corner of the state. Very much we look forward to drawing on your experience and your local knowledge. We will also, however, be looking at input from elsewhere. That will be in the form of research, contemporary literature, and presentations by guests so that lessons learned from elsewhere can also be considered and applied. And sometimes those lessons from elsewhere will challenge our thinking. In particular, during the course of this discussion, the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services would like you to consider some critical questions that they will be posing to you for your recommendation. We very much hope that you'll enjoy this discussion. Probably it will be one of the most important discussions that we have during the course of planning and implementing the program of child protection reforms that will be awaiting this state.